So I've been having this thought, a recurring thought, if you will, and it goes something like this. We either, as humans on this fine planet Earth of ours, we either wage merciless war with ourselves, or we subjugate ourselves to somebody who will put us to use to their own ends. So we either clamp down on ourselves and put ourselves to use to our own ends, or we simply submit to some form of a master who will do that for us, who will clamp us down, keep us shackled in some way, and put us to use to their ends. And I suppose this is a sort of an archetypal pattern of human nature. I hesitate to use the word human nature because human nature is itself so plastic, so much plasticity built into what we humans are, that it's misleading to sort of label it with the one human nature as though it's this rigid, concrete, strict thing, but no, it's not. But built into human nature. Obviously, we first come into the world and we have to be dependent on our mothers. So there is this archetype of mother-child dynamic. The child is dependent. The child, through evolutionary history, there's a program built into the child to say, this is the thing you become dependent on as soon as you come out of the womb. It's similar to the way like ducks and ducklings imprint as soon as they're born onto whatever they first see once they come out of the egg. That's amazing. Konrad Lorenz, he did some experiments where he replaced the geese, the ducks, the mother duck, with the boot that he wears. And so that was the first thing that the ducklings saw as soon as they hatched out of the egg. And what happened then was these ducklings followed his foot as though his foot were the mother goose or the mother duck. So in humans there must be a similar imprinting phenomenon that occurs that says, okay, this is the thing that will help you grow out of your dependency and into some form of independence. Obviously, that's a spectrum. You can't be fully independent. You depend on the earth taken to its logical extreme. You depend on the sun. You depend on the sun's rays to grow plants, to foster animals, the growth of animals, to eat the animals and the plants, and to remain physical, to be a biological organism, but beyond dependency on your mother. So there's this archetype built in, this dependency archetype. And what the company is, and this was first spoken to, I think, by Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell said it this way. He said that the company is like the mother. The company is that thing which will provide you with the means by which you can continue to live. Just as the mother provides the baby with the milk, the nourishment by which that baby can live. It's the exact same thing, only sort of in the wrong time for the human adult. The human adult shouldn't be dependent on something akin to a mother when it grows beyond a certain age. That's called immaturity, and that's just weird. It's weird to see a 40-year-old child. So how do we grow beyond this? Because this clearly is the cultural default mode, is to subject yourself to the whims of some sort of a multinational corporation or some sort of a company who will insist that you do a certain line of work and don't deviate too far from it because you'll get fired if you do. They insist that you do this line of work under implicit threat that if you don't, we won't provide you with the means by which to live. That boils my blood to think that I have to depend on somebody like that, or something like that, some entity like that, to continue living on this fine earth, because I love planet Earth. I actually cannot express the amount of love in my heart for this earth, and it's something I'm working on. I watched again the series of podcasts. I haven't watched all of them yet. I've watched maybe 4 or 5, I think there's 6 podcasts between Nate Higgins and Daniel Schmachtenberger. And Daniel Schmachtenberger has to be one of the most brilliant minds. If you are somebody who has yet to be exposed to a brilliant mind, watch Daniel Schmachtenberger. This guy will blow you away with the sense that he speaks. Wow. But he was saying how we need people with wide boundary values, and this can be represented by the heart. We need people with, we need hyper-agentic people. This can be represented by the will, which is the sternum, the chest. And we need intelligent people. This is represented by the head and the brain. It's only when all three are in alignment that we can, from this place, spontaneous right action occurs. That's amazing, because he was actually using the Bhagavad Gita. It's like the Vedic Bible. And in it, what is it? Chapter 2, verse 48. What does it say? It says something like, in yoga, which is simply to say, in the place where you are at the fundamental layer of being from which the generator function of generator functions arises. In that, from that place, when you stay there, spontaneous right action occurs. This is amazing. So, I love Earth. My heart is expanded. Now, how do I go about acting in the world so as to express that love and be sure that the adversarial forces that are no doubt acting on the world themselves, we can just take, for example, my domain of interest, ecology. Consider chemical agriculture and the chemical runoff into surface water bodies, the pollution of those surface water bodies, the movement of that polluted water into the ocean, the acidification of the ocean by CO2 absorption from the atmosphere, plus pollution by too much nitrogen, say, algal bloom, depletion of oxygen, death of all life in that water body. How do I go about expressing my love of the earth so that that sort of harm from that adversarial force stops? Here's how we do it. Yeah, they tell you how to do it. Daniel Schmachtenberger and Nate Higgins. First off, we need not become nihilistic as soon as we realise that, wow, there are forces out there at play that are way bigger than me and way bigger than anything that my agency could influence. Don't become nihilistic, no. Instead, seek to understand it as comprehensively as possible. At least then, what was previously impossible becomes hard to solve. Did you get that? Because I moved my sandal as soon as I said it, so I'm not sure if the mic picked it up. What was previously impossible becomes becomes hard to solve. And also, like, don't ever forget your love of the earth. This is something that really hit home. Environmentalism has become stagnant, stale, actually repulsive. Do you know why? Because these people act out of a place of hatred. We must stop this and stop that, and we'll do it by force. Come on, that's so ugly. Can we not do this while being beautiful still? When you act out of a place of hatred, your expression in the world is repulsive and ugly. And you forget to tether yourself to your love of the world. So your heart actually shrinks when you act out of a place of hatred. And no matter all the action and the intellect that you have, it won't sum to anything. It won't become anything effective because you're forgetting to include your heart and your love of the earth in your equation of action. So that's how we fix this problem, okay? Well, not necessarily fix the problem, but how we render an impossible problem a hard one. So yeah, I would highly recommend you watch Daniel Schmachtenberger. The man is insightful beyond belief, and I think with the internet we have a serious resource at our fingertips, literally, to really get this right. Never before in human history have we had this opportunity. Of course, there's a lot of other things about our world that are unprecedented, never before in human history sort of a thing, that are negatively affecting our ability to cognitively engage with the problems of our time. Like, for example, algorithms optimizing for limbic hijack system stuff, so that informative videos like Daniel Schmachtenberger stuff don't get shown on your newsfeed, therefore you don't click into them, therefore you don't expose yourself to that content. And because you have a finite amount of attention to give to any single thing, when the limbic hijack stuff takes up most of that time, you're probably not going to watch the Schmachtenberger stuff because you've been hijacked and you only have a finite amount of attention to hijack, and they hijack most of it. Whew. So it's a hard problem to solve, but I think it's solvable, because me personally, I feel like I'm making progress towards the rendering an impossible problem into a hard one, and actually changing my lifestyle as a result. And this is another key point that they mention on the podcast, is when you sufficiently understand these things, your life changes as a result. It's not like, I don't know, when I was younger, I actually just thought that the world is kind of just like ideas, and it's like, people just play with ideas, and like life goes on in whatever way it does go on, regardless, irrespective of the ideas that you fumble around with in your head. But no, that is incorrect, young James. And older James has recognized that as such incorrect. You need to actually let these ideas, you need to comprehend these ideas, understand them, and let them affect you at a deep embodied level. And then subsequently, they will affect your lifestyle, how you live your life. So for example, right now I'm in a phase of my life where I feel clean. I'm eating well, sleeping well, staying hydrated, working hard, working out. I'm doing all these things and I feel clean. And I guess what I'm saying is I'm letting the ideas that I harbour in my head affect my life. And I make sure that, because I'm waging merciless war on myself, because it's tough, there are temptations. And I'm not perfect. This has only been, what, like 3 days? Jesus. It feels like 3 years. It's only been 3 days, but it feels great. I feel connected to something much deeper. And I feel like that's what Schmachty was speaking to when he spoke to like yoga and stuff. Although I might be delusional, but I feel like I'm connected to something deeper. I feel it. Because I'm working hard towards certain goals that, well, you will of course soon find out what they are. I'm excited for you to see. Well, I'll give it away here. If you've been watching the video for this long, you must be interested. So one of my goals is to create a nature documentary where I completely deconstruct, not in the negative sense, deconstruct the idea of wilderness, and I insist upon the need for us to revise and update that concept, because I feel like it has reached its point of paradoxical counterproductivity. What does that mean? Well, consider the term wilderness, the history of the term. Very brief, quick snapshot history. In biblical times, wilderness was considered like a dark and dangerous and mysterious place that had to be civilized, tamed and domesticated. So this encouraged the conquest of nature. Conquering nature. Okay, then came industrialization, and the romantics, the romantic era poets, they were observing the devastating effects of wide-scale industrialization of the world. And so they began to flip the concept of nature on its head and redefine it. And they said wilderness and nature is where one might go to escape the hubbub and terrible, noisy world of humans and find peace, tranquility, serenity, where you might encounter the beautiful and the sublime. So then that encouraged not the conquest of nature, but the preservation of nature, and we get the establishment of national parks across many areas of the globe. This, I think, actually was an idea that began in North America, but on the winds of the globe was pushed back across to the old world, to Europe, where there were also national parks established. But now, I fear we are in need of update, because merely preserving what's left is no longer sufficient. And this gets to rewilding, which I cannot explain how passionate I am about rewilding. And it's simply why I'm going to make the documentary. Hopefully I get to actually interview a rewilding person. So yeah, that's coming down the pipeline. But we need to update the concept of wilderness so that other appropriate and correct concepts come to the fore and encourage an expanded vision of wilderness and nature, where like nature isn't anymore that thing out there that, you know, will continue to self-regulate and be autonomous despite human presence. No, humans are so globalized, and so the magnitude of their effects are so great that nothing on the earth can escape our effects, be it direct or indirect. So nature does not exist in that old school sense anymore. So one of the concepts that might come to the fore with this redefinition is connectivity, increasing connection between the refugia, you know, those places that were preserved back in the Romantic era days and into the present day. Increase the connection between them. And then another concept that will come to the fore is trophic rewilding, which is re-establishing the trophic cascades